Yo, Trojan family, what's up? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB Network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyberd, back from USC's campus. If you haven't seen it yet, I have a recap from today's day 2 at spring practice right up here on the channel. So make sure to check that out for all the tidbits, the notes, and observations from a very spirited spring practice number 2. But recruiting update for you involving specifically Danny Lang. And this has, been one of the hot topics for USC recruiting in 2027. This has been one of the premier targets for the USC Trojans and probably one of the ones that they have pushed the hardest to get. Now, it has felt for quite some time, and I've been telling you guys and reporting, and other outlets have done the same, that USC is at the top of Danny Lang's recruitment. It always felt like it was theirs to lose, while it didn't mean others were out of it. And, the likes of Oregon, Ohio State, others were pushing hard. It always felt like USC had a nice little upper hand there. Well, just like last week, all of a sudden at a 7-on-7 tournament in Atlanta, Lang comes out and tells rivals that Oregon's at the top for him. USC's right there, but Oregon is actually at the top, and the relationship he's built with Dan Lanning and that staff, and that there's some feeling of maybe wanting to test the waters of going out of state and kind of living away from home, which, hey, I can relate to. I did the same when I was an 18-year-old kid. I wanted to get far away from home and experience something new. But it was just it was a different tone, I guess, or a new report, if you will, than what we had heard previously of like him really wanting to stay home, or at least it was speculated that he was more leaning towards staying home. So that was like a week ago, and I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of news that Oregon all of a sudden now is in the lead, if you will. Well, today, and I was on campus, so I saw him. Danny Lang made a surprise, obviously USC coordinated it, but a visit this morning for spring practice. Arrived like at 6 a.m., was able to meet with Coach Riley, Coach Patterson, Coach Reed, Chad Bowden, all prior to practice starting, and then obviously was there to witness practice as well. So that tells you how serious USC is about getting this thing done with Danny Lang. Like, they hear, and they're not exactly sitting in their office probably reading rivals or watching my videos, but they know what's going on. Obviously, they're talking to the recruits themselves. If he says, hey, I don't know, I'm kind of leaning Oregon, or they hear from the grapevine, this just shows their all-out pursuit to kind of close this thing down potentially with Danny Lang. Now, at the moment, he is going to take his official visits, which right now I believe 3 are confirmed. Others he is working on. But he has Auburn confirmed for June 5th, USC for June 12th, Oregon for June 19th. And he is planning on right now to announce his commitment on his birthday on July 2nd. Now, USC would love to get this done beforehand. Before that, they'd love to speed that up, get him to commit ahead of July 2nd, get him definitely to commit before Oregon's official visit, before any official visits. Because if he does commit, that's it, right? You know how the policy goes. If they're able to get his commitment, let's say, this weekend, well, then that's a done deal. He's committed to USC, barring, something crazy happening, and he won't be taking those official visits, which are so important in the recruitment process. I don't know how to keep saying it. I tell you guys all the time. You all know how important they are when you're on campus, in the environment, watching practice, meeting with the coaches, in the facility. Like, that pays so much more value than just, talking every day. Not that that's not important, but that really changes the game. So USC would really love to ramp this thing up. And again, that just shows you how much value they see in adding him to this class and pairing him with his former teammate, Aaron Washington. So much so that now Danny Lang is going to be back on campus for Friday's practice. It helps only living a few miles away, right? That gives you the upper hand. That's why it was so bewildering when USC wasn't dominating SoCal prospects just a few years ago, because you had that advantage of, like, you can come literally every week. I mean, Tom Tapui lived on campus, basically. Like, we saw him there all the time. That was such an advantage to have him, guys already around the guys and, in the environment often, instead of just, a great weekend visit is great and fun, but is that lasting versus somewhere you've been to 20 times? And like, okay, that's where I want to be. I feel comfortable there. So he'll be back on Friday. We'll see. I'm not saying his commitment's going to jump from July 2nd all of a sudden to March 7th or whatever that date will be. But obviously USC would love to get this thing, happening quicker than just before the official visit starts. So, but it's going to be tough to beat Oregon. He loves Oregon, loves what they're about. His father has said he's always loved Oregon. He's also always loved Ohio State. That's been kind of a dream school. So if it's really important for him to go through with all these official visits, you can certainly expect Ohio State to get an official visit, as long as Ohio State still wants him, that is, and see those through and try to make it all the way to that commitment day. So this will be a fascinating one to watch. It's going to be a hotly contested battle. And like I said, as of last week, it looked like Oregon was back in front. Or was in front. I would lean more towards USC, a little bit more in front now after today, after conversations he had with all the coaches, and deciding to come back again this coming Friday. I just feel like that positions USC a little, better at the moment. So we'll see what that looks like. I talked about practice today in the recap. You guys can watch that there. But it was a heavy dose of defense that we were able to see. And you could see the coaching. I talked a lot about Gonzalez. Obviously, Danny Lang would likely be in Coach Reed's room. Coach Trevon Reed is the one recruiting him, but Danny Lang also has extreme versatility as a defensive back. Like, he can certainly play safety. He's done it in high school at Mater Dei. So USC can move him all over the place, certainly, and he could kind of be that hybrid, or if they ultimately decide to play him at safety early on or later on, whatever it may be. But he was able to see the coaching tactics, the prowess, the communication, the dedication to the details that both Trevon Reed and Coach Gonzalez and Sam Carter have, for that matter. So I think it was a really strategic practice for him to see in that regard when we saw them specializing in special teams and defense. And so we'll see what Friday looks like and how that could bode. On the flip of that, of just like, kind of the ripple effect, if you will, two other names that could have an effect on, this recruitment overall and USC and Oregon, vice versa. So just a few days ago, or maybe just yesterday, actually, Dante Wright, who, I did a video last week that basically him and USC decided to not part ways, but basically said, okay, yeah, we're going different directions. He is the commit to Georgia, goes to Long Beach Poly. A bunch of recruiting experts just put in predictions for him to flip to Oregon. Would be a huge get for Oregon to be able to flip Dante Wright from Georgia. I think Dante Wright's a super talented kid. I would have loved to see USC maybe a little bit more involved early with him. I really want to see them try to rebuild that pipeline to Long Beach Poly. But, he said, and I talked about it, that he viewed USC kind of had their guys, and so he was going to look at a different direction. Now it's looking like Oregon maybe has a good shot to flip him. So what does that mean then if that happens for their recruitment of Danny Lang? Now, I think they'll have the room to still take both if they so fit, but would that affect Danny Lang's desire to play there if Dante Wright goes? I don't know. That's just more speculation and more kind of just like, hey, what does this ripple effect look like? The other side of this is if Danny Lang starts to sway more Oregon's pendulum, like he did last week before kind of coming back to center with USC, is you look at four-star St. John Bosco cornerback, another local prospect, Jalen Hill. He said, and this is just as of today, I believe, that right now it is neck and neck between USC and Notre Dame. So another school in there, Notre Dame, obviously we're not talking Oregon, but we know USC is likely only taking 2 corners, 4 defensive backs, maybe 5 max, as I've said. So if it's neck and neck with Jalen Hill, but they're pushing hard for Danny Lang, you already have Aaron Washington committed, you're really pushing for Honor Fa'alave Johnson and Gavin Williams as your true safeties. How do the pieces all fit? You kind of start to create, I've said this before, create a little bit of an arms race almost with the recruits of saying, hey, we got one spot. Who wants it? Like, if you want to wait, we want you. But if you want to wait till July 2nd, that spot may not be available anymore. If we start saying, hey, if Jalen Hill wants to commit, like we like his prospects as well. You look at his offers, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Washington. Like, we know the talent of that kid too. We're we think both of you guys highly and can be super successful here at USC, but we don't want to just wait around. So here's the offer. We may not be waiting 4 months. Not saying that's exactly what's happening, but I think there is a little bit of tactical strategy there in when you have limited spots. Last year was so very different when you're going after a 35-person class. Like, you're just stacking dudes. And you're like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Take your time. We got room. We want you. We'll wait for you. This year is very different. Of like, hey, we can't wait for you. We got 18 total spots. We got 2 spots at your position. 4 total in the defensive backfield. So don't take too long. So not saying that's exactly what's happening, but it's something to think about, especially when you hear on the same day, like, oh, there's two highly touted corners who are both basically 50-50 between USC and another school. This comes on the back end of another highly touted corner in Dante Wright saying like, they have their guys, so I'm going to start looking elsewhere. And on the other back of Duve Williams, who's always been a long-time USC guy, now basically turning his sights to Cal and other schools as well. So it gives you a little bit of clarity about kind of where USC is looking. And right now, all roads to me are Danny Lang with Jalen Hill as, I don't want to say the backup plan, but a very suitable, 1B, I guess, if you will, if Danny Lang starts to sway one way or another. So it's going to be fascinating. Either way, extremely talented kids. Either way, local SoCal prospects, which is what all USC fans love to see. And hey, when you're battling Oregon and Notre Dame, that's what makes this recruiting and what's make these rivalries so fun is it's not just on the gridiron, it's also in the recruiting and the relationship building right here in Southern California. So there's your latest on the cornerback kind of recruitment. I will be there on Friday, so any news we hear of Lang with him being there, I will certainly let you know. Make sure to check our LAFB message board for some information there, as I'll be able to put that out quicker probably. We want to keep updating that. Would love to see you guys start commenting. It's free. Completely free to sign up. You just, you sign up for an account like you would anywhere else, but it doesn't cost you anything. Would love to start seeing some comments filter in there, but at the very minimum, love you commenting here on YouTube. Love seeing all that anyway. So, I mean, that's at a bar minimum. Keep commenting here on YouTube, but if you are willing to go over to our LAFBnetwork.com message board for just some other conversation, that's great as well. But hey, I appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe. I've got some more recruiting info coming out later tonight. I'm probably just going to do more of a visitor list, kind of everyone I've seen there. There's been guys there yesterday, visitors there today, some linebacker prospects, tight end, plus some more that are planning to be there on Friday, and then a lot of visits this weekend, which we won't be there for practice, but still visitors going to be on campus taking everything in with the USC football program. So I'll put something out on that, just more kind of informative on all the visitors there. And then, yeah, plenty more coming out later tomorrow and the rest of the week. I said in my last video, Tim and I were planning to go live tonight. Unfortunately, last minute scheduling conflict. So we'll probably be live tomorrow or Friday. I'll put it up on, I'll let you guys that follow me on Twitter know. Ryan Dyrud, LAFB is my handle. Or I'll put out a post here on YouTube when we have that finalized. So we are going to start going live again weekly. So we love doing it. We love the engagement. We love your phone calls. So that will be happening. It's just been a roller coaster with schedules. So that will be happening. But appreciate you all. As always, fight on.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.